through a turnout coat. I mean, you gotta be pretty damn.
You'll definitely take some centimeters off it. Sometimes that might be like, I barely got through the muscle, but I didn't pierce the heart.
Yeah, you didn't hit the bone.
Yeah.
You know, those are some great points.
And we've been on tons of shootings where it was a chaotic place and the scene wasn't quite where we're supposed to be. You're staging in the red zone.
Staging in the red zone.
And so when it sounds really bad, put those things on it for safety.
Put them on.
Because EMS and fire and nursing are very chaotic.
Because do y'all still have the helmets?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder.
It's a nice resource.
But I wonder how many people would be able to put their pride aside to put it on.
What's the setting of the crew? What they're going? Is it going to be a joke, or is it going to be? Is the leader going to make it a serious thing? That it's not funny. We are putting these on. You know. So.
Yeah. The whenever somebody wakes up and literally does pull out the gun, it goes that way. But like so the weapon search. I was actually going back to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
The weapon search before they went into the ambulance, and there's a lot of gray space there on whether or not she actually managed to get patted down, if it was even applicable to pat her down. Because I think the issue is you can't out logic crazy. And if somebody has decided that this is what I want to do or how it's going to happen, they know how to interact. And again, I'll be very curious to see the detailed after action report, hopefully, that comes out on whether or not PD perhaps did a Terry frisk.
Do we know if there's any footage of they say they're going to release
I haven't heard
footage from
any
chest
footage
cam
yet,
or
but
anything?
Don't know yet. Yeah.
Because that would be interesting to see the behavior of the patient before.
Right. Yeah, because that in order to like truly be guiding or educational in this matter, we would really need to see the nuance of what she was doing, be able to break her down.
And you have to just think of their mental state and their rationale, because while they're in their hearing for stabbing and killing this public safety man, they asked if they could get a work release because they don't want to lose their job. Okay, they're going to be behind bars for a long time, and they think that's a possibility after killing a public safety hero. Like their rationale is so out of this world. But that's what we have to be careful with. You have a family, I have a family. We're here for a very small amount of money, helping people. But we go to these very dangerous individuals every shift, and they could kill us. Or a driver could kill us, or we could be in a basement and the living room falls in on top of us, and a fire. Like, bad things happen. 100 firefighters die every year, and that's why it's important. Like, this sucks. This happened to paramedic firefighter Hoffman, but we have to see what lessons that can be learned by it and how we can better protect ourselves through his. This is just another terrible, terrible bad call, and
it opens up good discussions, chances for good discussions, hopefully.
Yeah, and it also goes to the discussion of everybody don't need to be transported. These agencies are going to have to learn that, because I can guarantee every 10-13 situation I've had, they did not need to be transported by ambulance.
Well, unfortunately,
the only ones were excited delirium, because we're dealing with medical. We're dealing with how much can your heart stand. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, and this is not knowing dash cam, this is me painting the picture of every call I've ever experienced. At 2 o'clock in the morning, in all honesty, I'm thinking about how not to transport you. And it's a lot to do with self-preservation, but it has a lot to do with what is actually going on at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's where we and PD and our supervisors have to come to some term to say, Grady did it. That was a magical thing that Grady did when they said, we're inventing this little word called no.
Yeah.
And we're inventing it, and we're going to use it. And when we show up and we see that nah, we're going to say no.
But no also comes with two stipulations. One, it has to have the backing of the administration behind it, because the first time you say no and then there's a potentially negative outcome, you're crucified.
Yeah.
And then two, there's also got to be an excellent culture around it. And what I mean by that is, I've been around long enough. We remember rural Metro whenever they got permission. There you go. Yeah, and what happened during the no phase, where there you go. Because I like to think that I was a decent medic. You were a decent medic. I know some decent medics. but I know some horror shows that were slop shit sandwiches, that were lazy bastards, that never should have been able to pass the National Registry, and everything's a non-emergency because they're lazy. Then they don't want to take anything to the hospital, and that is completely inappropriate.
And in this situation,
so they had too much power.
And in this situation, this is more about we're all on scene. We're on scene. PD is on scene. Fire could be on scene. At that point, if a patient does need to be transported somewhere, then it's not going to be the ambulance. It's not going to be the crew, like you said before. The crew that looks like they're shaking in their boots and they just got there.
Or the whole female crew that's been sexually
Yeah.
harassed by them, and
Yeah.
and they're like, damn, I can't believe we got to take this guy.
Yeah, these are the
it's
things that our superiors need to start discussing, because it's a lot safer to transport somebody, or even if they have a cut. If we control bleeding, there's no medical threat there unless you have internal bleeding, which can't say on this call. We don't know, we didn't see, but it was from the hand. And so at that point, we need to make a decision, because you've ran that call before at midnight, and we've all said it. PD are the number one, especially in Riverdale, they're the number one deciding factor of all the calls. Most of the calls that I ran, it was whether got into a little scuff, ended up with a Band-Aid here and now, they want us to check them out. And it's not calling out PD, it's just saying, I know you're trying to protect your stake, but now if you just wrestled with this guy, now you want me.
Unfortunately, it's just everything's gonna stack on top of. They got in a fight. This guy got cut. Now I have to my protocol call 911. I mean, call ambulance out, and then it's just, and there's also the hot potato.
Yes.
We don't. This person's at this gas station. We don't want him in here. He just peed in the corner, and so we call police. We just want him to be leave the gas station. The police can't necessarily remove him. So they call 911, can y'all take him to the hospital? What are his complaints? No complaints, but he's agreeing to go. And then what's his complaint, 911? What are y'all taking him to the hospital? He doesn't really have a complaint, but police need him to leave. Yeah. Okay, and then it's, and that's unfortunately what happens with a lot of these people. We need them to go away. They need them to, someone needs them to go the way, and it's passed all the way down to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then all the way to the end of the hot potatoes, we've had people transported by the hospitals to hotels that they agreed to the hotel they'll pay for 2 or 3 nights. They're in a hospital gown at a hotel because they don't want them at the hospital anymore. And it runs right back to the cycle.
That's what I was about to say. And you have the hotel that had them in your area.
Yeah, and it's not like a joke. It's like, that sucks. It's just, the whole system is.
The third day you get it, you come back to work on the third day. God dang it, just in time for them to tear up this hotel room that the hospital sent them to.
Yeah.
And like, to me, to be honest, like you just outlined the loop, right? And there's a couple ways we can make the loop work better by additional mental health resources and having access to emergency mental health resources. The emergency department is not an emergency health resource.
No.
If we do anything, we re-traumatize anybody that actually needed any legitimate, like, emergent mental health. We just immediately re-traumatize. They come in, we strip them naked and like stick them in a cold concrete box.
Can I call my mom?
No. Exactly. So
can I have something to eat?
This is not a good.
When is the doctor going to see me?
Yeah, this is
after he sees the.
It's not. You're not going to get.
Yeah.
You can go with me to the jail. Or you can go there and get help.
Yeah,
that's what your help looks like. That's what your help looks like.
Just re-traumatizing you in the ED while we struggle to get ice chips for everybody else.
And we have held people on 1013s. Now some have been elderly and they've stayed because it's hard to get an elder placed, but they have been in there for 3 weeks. But I've seen 20-something-year-olds because of insurance. Sit there for 2 weeks, and you're talking about 2 weeks of no sun because you can't go outside, no belongings. You're eating off styrofoam, some PWE powdered eggs. You got a TV behind the glass. You got somebody next to you screaming bloody murder all night, and you were here only because during your evaluation while you checked in for your UTI that you've had thoughts about harming yourself. And now you're 2 weeks in.
Yep. And like I said, like there are better ways to help that loop, but I just I don't think there's any way to stop those people from cycling through society, because society is always going to be there, and all we can realistically focus on is how are we going to interact with them at every level so that we're safer. You know what I mean? Safer in the hospital, safer on the scene, safer as police departments. And it's like, you want to see the ball stop bouncing, but there's nowhere for them to go, so they continue to loop. So if we're going to take a dark and realistic approach to it, it's this right here. We're all stuck in this spiral. How do we make sure that we get to go home safely? And the only way that I can think about that is presence, a forethought, which basically means I've already planned how I'm going to interact. You have to understand that if you're doing these jobs, you are going to have violent physical confrontations. You're going to come across people. You're going to be in fights. They're going to challenge you. Someone's going to specifically try to hurt you at some point. And it's going to happen in the course of your career. If it hasn't, you're just lucky. Or I guess it just hasn't happened yet. And you just have to be able to take the appropriate precautions to make yourself safe, because there's the big macro fix to the issue, which is better resources, better access, better this and that and all this good stuff. And then there's the micro of the day-to-day stuff. Like, I'm on a scene, and now, granted, they stayed in a hotel for 3 days. Well, now they're my problem, and how do I make sure I don't get stabbed? You know,
and you know, in the hospital, get them a sandwich on time.
Yep.
You got your ones that you know come in. You're just like, hey man, he just showed up. Hey man, get him a sandwich and some juice ASAP.
Yep.
Because
I'm gonna slide this turkey. I'm gonna open the door and fling this turkey sandwich in the way I toss a grenade into the room.
Because he's gonna give you a warning one time.
Yep. Yep.
And you know, as far as what you were talking about, the macro and the micro, I think that society is gonna have to come to terms, because between the homeless population, I look at it as zombie movies. You know, some people laugh about that, but remember the one zombie movie? It was led by the black guy. He was like, had on overalls or whatever, and they had a conscience. It was basically to symbolize that.
Wow, you went with Romero #4.
Yeah,
Land of the Dead.
Yeah,
The trumpets, yeah.
That's basically where we're headed.
He was evolving.
Yeah, they evolved, and basically the gist of it was, we want either what you have, or we want to be able to be somewhere where we can have what we want. But ultimately, it's what your resources, because we don't have resources. Your resources is your body that we want to eat. But ultimately, if you look at what society has become, downtown Atlanta, hey, let's move them somewhere else. Let's throw boulders under the bridge. That'll fix it.
Yeah.
We'll just slide them somewhere else.
They can't catch it on fire if they can't camp on
Yeah,
there.
they can't. Yeah, they can't do anything. Oh God, wait a minute, they're sleeping outside the Capitol. All right, put some barricades up. We'll put some barricades up. Meanwhile, we're doing all of these things to move these people, just like when Techwood closed during the Olympics. Clayton County we never had this many. When I was growing up, you did not see 1013s walking down the street. But now we have ignored the solution for so long. And the reason is because the solution is not palatable.
No.
Taking somebody's rights away for months at a time.
In
or
biblical
saying,
times,
6
there was
months.
homeless people. We're going to have homeless people 1,000 years in the future. It's unfortunately an unsolvable crisis, and they would not be homeless if they functioned normally and didn't have all these mental health issues or addictions. But unfortunately, they typically do.
Yeah, and so
it's
that's what we're
it's
to
hard
the point.
to, it's very hard to fix.
And society, well, and that's the thing. In society, we can fix it if we brought back. But then the thing is, because if you have them there, you have to have people to treat them. And what is the common goal? Is the common goal fixing, or is the common goal containing?
Correct.
And that's where we are. We don't know if we want to fix it or if we want to contain them.
I think we do very good in this country of containment, and we do terrible at fixing. But that's the judicial system, the criminal justice system.
And
It's a whole
so
different
right now,
place.
we don't want to be overrun, i.e. zombies. Because if you ignore it, there's a whole army. And if you have 1013s and homeless, imagine if they merged into one army under one charismatic leader. And they said, you know what? We're going to take what we want. We're screwed.
I'm down for watching that movie. I think we need to have an
Get the
aside.
script.
I'm telling you, man, we are screwed. Think about
A24 will make
Think about the subway populations that are living underground.
Yeah.
Can you imagine running a 911 call, say, hey, go back to the back gate?
I was gonna say, I think that one was already done. It's like Chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Well, remember